Hello, my name is Randy Slack, and I'm the publisher for Computer Science and IT at Taylor and Francis. I'm very pleased to be joined today by the editors of the upcoming book, Intelligent Automation, Bridging the Gap Between Business and Academia. Since prehistoric times, humans have invented ways to simplify daily activities to improve productivity. The most recent milestone in this journey is robotic process automation, or RPA, helping to build software robots that can leverage to automate mundane and repetitive tasks that can be labor-intensive and prone to errors. In recent years, RPA has been integrated with emerging artificial intelligence and machine learning technologies to create what is referred to as intelligent automation, or IA, emulating human actions and decision-making abilities. This book addresses the critical questions about the rise, usage, and future of IA practices. Marie Myers, Carol Brace, and Lila Carden have joined us today to talk about this exciting new book and to share their insights on intelligent automation. To start off, could you please tell us a little bit about yourselves? Marie, let's start with you.
Sure. So good morning, and thanks for the opportunity, Randy. So excited to be here. I've been in the sort of technology space for about 25 years. And for me, this book was really important in terms of what I've done in my career over particularly the last decade. I'm the CFO for HP, and I've had a really big part of my career has been involved with digital transformation. So I've had a chance to really use and see automation at work in the workplace. And also I sit on a couple of boards, university boards, and I've seen the importance of students to really understand what intelligent automation means for both their education and as they enter the workplace. So, very excited to be here and grateful that I've had the opportunity to contribute to this book. So thanks, Randy.
Thanks, Marie. Carol?
Well, I also have over 20 years of corporate experience specializing in planning, implementing processes to improve the effectiveness of the business teams and business systems in the IT world. Much of my career focused on supply chain management within the IT world. But this career prepared me for an opportunity in 2010 to support our Houston community and academia. And in this role, I was able to enlist the help of fellow practitioners such as Marie and other people from various industries to partner with Workforce Solutions and academia to develop certification courses for our displaced NASA space shuttle workers. And this partnership led to the career placement opportunities for all of them. And it seems it's in my blood to foster and build connections with academia and practitioners.
And last but not least, Lila.
Hi, thank you so much for this opportunity. My academic and professional preparations include the theoretical and the practical applications of projects, project management, and technology. So specifically, I'm a faculty member in the technology management program. I received my PhD in human resource development from Texas A&M University and my MBA from the University of Houston. I'm also a certified project management professional, and I am a Lean Six Sigma Black Belt. I also worked in industry for approximately 18 years as a project manager, program manager, project lead, accountant representative, and volume analyst, just to name a few positions. So my research really focuses on the use of projects and project management processes to support the implementation of strategic initiatives, and these include the impacts of human resources, risk management, and technology project management. Thank you.
So how did this book idea develop? How did the three of you come together to start this project? Marie?
Yeah, so I'll be honest with you, I had this idea that we should write a book for a long time. The three of us actually collaborated about 7 years ago on a paper that we wrote around culture and technology implementation. At the time, we were just really excited that we could get this paper in production. But as the years sort of went by, I had prompted the ladies that I think there's an opportunity to really go deeper here. And particularly in my role at HP in finance, I saw so many young graduates coming on that just didn't have this experience. And so when COVID hit, I called up the ladies and said, listen, we're going to have a lot of free time on Saturday mornings. Why don't we get together and try to write this book? And really, it was COVID that was the impetus for us to write the book. And we literally spent almost every Saturday morning for an hour to 2 hours really scoping out how to approach pulling this book off and pulling together the sort of outline for the book. So in some ways, the pandemic brought, I think, a lot of challenges into our lives, but for the three of us, I think it brought us together and really gave us the opportunity to come together and write this book.
Excellent. It's amazing how many books came together due to COVID.
Yeah.
Besides this one, yeah. So why this book and why now? Marie?
Yeah, I just felt the time was right. And, several of us have been, I had been both seeing the technology side of it in terms of how it works in the workplace. I had a chance to actually work for one of the companies that was really building this technology. And then the sort of view that I had from watching a lot of these students that were going through university and then joining the workplace, I felt that the time was right to really, there was nothing in the market that really helped bridge what we were seeing in the workplace and what students really needed from an education perspective. So it really was just a happenstance in terms of timing. And the technology started to mature. So in terms of both the maturity of the technology and in terms of the gaps in the market, it just felt like it was the right time. And today, I think now a lot of the, let's just say, the gut feel that we had about the importance of this technology got proved out. And it's become literally a mainstream tool for many, in many ways. Today, you pick up, literally, it's in the news every day, automation is accepted as part of life. When I go back several years ago when we first started working and wrote our first paper in this space, people were sort of like still very skeptical that automation would have a significant impact on the workplace. Today, it's just not even a doubt. It's more how quick and how fast. So that was really the background, Randy, in terms of how we approached it.
Carol, what makes this book unique?
Well, honestly, there's so many factors, but I'm unaware of any other book where business and academia have partnered to ensure this dynamic that we're looking at, because the changes in our business world of intelligent automation is so fast and it needs to be shared. So this book is strongly recommended for practitioners seeking to plan, implement, and scale the IA practices in their organizations and for academians. It's and their students also who intend to study the strategy, the implementation, the management of IA practices to accelerate the digital transition and transformation agenda that is happening. So to address those needs of the readers, the authors, we all sat down and categorized our targeted audience into following what they call personas, which are groups considering individuals' learning interests. So they have stage one, the persona one, where it was the early stage practitioners seeking to learn effective management of AI practices. They had number two, which was establishing the IA practitioners seeking to drive maturity and scale. Thirdly, they have business leaders seeking to understand how to drive the business value of AI using it. And then finally, practitioners or us as academians seeking to collaborate. So I find this invaluable to support our readers because they know exactly what areas they could focus on. They don't have to read every single area. They could go and say, oh, this is the area I need to focus on. And it's applicable to the areas of interest. And I believe this clearly sets the tone of what the three of us sat down. We really wanted to set a tone for development of talent of our universities to support our practitioners. And we can't do that without each other. So it's obvious that without their real-time practicum experience, this wouldn't be possible.
So the book has a number of high-profile authors who've contributed to it besides yourselves. How did you choose the authors to contribute to the book?
Well, I'm gonna let Marie finish this one, but I'll start. I think that was easy. I just reached out to some colleagues on the academic side and a few that I knew from the practitioner side, but Marie offered the majority of help on the business and practicum side. Because by the time we put this book together, I had, kind of stepped back a little bit from the practicum side. So to ensure we had critical key members for our chapter outline, that we had defined. Marie, go ahead. You kicked
Yeah, no,
in.
thank you, Carol. So I think what we wanted was a real world experience. One of the things, Randy, I've read a lot of books out there in my lifetime and continue to read a lot. And you get either, I think, a lot of theory or one person's view on the world. What's different about what we've done here is that we've kind of like got a potpourri of real world practitioners and people who are in all kinds of industries and have had to live the journey. And so you're going to get an unusual sort of read in the sense that you're going to get all these practitioners who've had different experiences in different companies. And then you're going to get some academic views of the world that bridge that, which I think is very unique, Randy. We wanted that perspective because I think both as a practitioner and if you're, in a classroom and you're trying to understand how this is going to be important for you or why you need to learn it and how to learn it, I think if you get just one narrow perspective, it can lead you sometimes down the wrong track. So we wanted to offer a variety of perspectives, and I think we're very fortunate. We got an incredible group to the table. I got to tell you, it wasn't easy, Randy. One of the trials and tribulations of taking this approach was it was a bit like herding cats. You can imagine on Saturday mornings, some people would show up and some people wouldn't show up. Some people dropped off along the way. So, and I can see everybody smiling. We got there in the end, and I think I'm just really grateful for the team that stuck with us through the pandemic and then post-pandemic. But it was certainly an unusual approach, and I think it's unique, and I think hopefully it works out to be a really good one, and the readers find it incredibly interesting to have an opportunity to get a vast array of perspectives. But I think what you see is that even though people sit in different seats, everybody in this book lined up in terms of the importance of intelligent automation. I think for all of us, we shared a common purpose and a common sort of, theory that intelligent automation is really going to change the way we all work. And I think we all came into this knowing that, and then we brought different perspectives, which I think is hopefully very refreshing.
Definitely. Lila, Marie mentioned the readers for the book. Who do you think is the target audience for the book, and how will they find it beneficial?
Well, the target audience includes practitioners, business leaders, and then academics, including the instructors, the faculty members, and students. So this book can be used as a framework and practical application of scaling an intelligent automation journey. And this should be significant for, I feel like, business leaders, as well as this book includes project and management and practical implementation steps. And this can be important for practitioners as well as business leaders. And it also includes the lessons learned and the insights of future intelligent automation. And so faculty can use this as a case studies, because there are various aspects of the book that talk about implementations and the pitfalls and the advantages, as well as we conclude with the future of intelligent automation. And these things are very important from a practical standpoint for students when you're teaching in the technology-related fields.
It's a very broad and diverse audience, which is great.
Mhm.
So Lila, you've come to the project from the academic point of view. Can you tell us a little bit about how the book might be useful to academia? And you mentioned faculty might find it useful. Could you talk a little more to that?
Well, yes, I feel like, yes, the instructors will find this book very useful. And the reason being is there's one resource. This book is just one resource, and it juxtaposes industry and academia with intelligent automation. So this book can be used as an instructional training book. So not just for academia, but for instruction for the business community, as well as, again, I talked about it as a case study, which would include steps and resources about how to execute intelligent automation initiatives. And the big kick for, I feel like, for industry and for students is to have these lessons learned and these how-tos and what can we do? Why is this project advantageous versus what have you learned about the pitfalls of these projects? And then the students can see what actually is happening in the real world. Some of the fields of applied studies will have students that have had industry experience in the past, but quite a few of these students will not have any practical application about what goes on in the real world. And I think that that is the big thing about this book. Again, it juxtaposes the theoretical with the practical.
Okay. So Marie, what is your perspective on intelligent automation and how has that been reflected in this book?
Yeah, sure, Randy. I mean, to me, I have a very deliberate sort of theory about automation, and I'll tell you a story. I graduated in the United States with my master's degree, and I had a chance to join a company back then called Compaq, which was
in the background.
Exactly. Carol's got the original poster there of Silicon Cowboys, and I just felt so lucky. I joined an MBA cohort. And my first job, I was a product manager, and one of the things that I became really good at was I became a bit of a pivot table queen. So I used to cut and paste lots of data, look for trends, and do lots of hardcore analysis. And I, would stay up really late at night, building these tables. Sort of, a quarter of a century on, I look back and think, sort of 3 degrees later, and all those years at university, was that really a good use of my time, cutting and pasting exorbitantly large amounts of data, and then spending very little time on the analytics because I had all this work to do to just sort of aggregate information. And that really led me down the path of understanding why automation was so important, because in the workplace, there's a lot of really smart young graduates who come in, and in a lot of ways you get stuck just aggregating information because it sits in different systems. So the thought of having the opportunity to automate a lot of that, and then you could really apply your intellect and your interest to an analysis, which is really what we spent all these years going to university to do, what was really sort of the basis for why I felt like automation was so important. I just saw a lot of people in the workplace who got chewed up with really mundane tasks. And I feel like automation really frees us up to use the skills we have, because a big chunk of our day became just routine stuff that could be eliminated with automation. So I see automation very positively. I mean, I know there's also some threats that automation has, but I think as it's evolved over the last few years, it's emerged in a much more positive fashion, and people see that it could be a big benefit for the way we work and really allow humans to be freed up to do the things we really want to do, which is, and also the other things, I think, frankly, spend quality time at work, not just time spent doing stuff that's really not value add. And so hopefully it leads to, I think about my kids and when they graduate, and I hope that they graduate into a workplace where they get to add intellectual value, and hopefully the workday is a better experience as well. The quality of work looks better. So that's my personal theory about automation, that it improves the quality of work.
And that's so important. Carol, so you were very actively involved in the editing and development process for the book. How did you find that book writing process? And do you have any advice for other authors?
You need moisturizer? Just kidding. Black eyes come with it. The onset of COVID-19 plagued our book writing process. It did, but there's going to be other things that plague people. Like Marie said, people coming and going, vice versa, somebody getting sick, marriages, who knows what. But we began with an advisory team. We sat up and we gathered a whole group of people from various industries to advise us on what should be in the book. And most of the advisors were not part of our book. Most of them were, just consultants who just gave us some ideas and said, this is what I want to see when I read the book. So I really thought that was a good thing that we had that. And we also, the acknowledgement of them that this is exactly what practitioners out there would like to see. And once we had this in place, the rest was kind of easy. My advice is that no matter what stage you're in, stay in direct contact with the publisher. If you had been part of our process, Randy, it would have been, and Solomon as well, it would have been very hard to meet our deadlines, and it would prove to be more difficult. So in the future, for the next onset of book that we would like to do with you, we would definitely involve you in our meetings to ensure that we have answered questions real time for our collaborators and contributors to the book in a timely fashion. This involvement, your involvement, it would be so critical to the success of the future book to get it to meet the deadlines. And we found that having individual file folders for abbreviations, acknowledgements, book bios of the contributors and editors, book cover, breakouts of the chapters, graphics, forward written intro to the book, references and testimonials. Having all that broken out and put into folders made my life so much easier to provide to you. Staying organized was key in this to ensure that our publishing deadlines and that's what you needed from us and our authors received proper attention.
I just like to take this opportunity to thank Carol too, on behalf of Jill Lila and myself. You really need one person who is going to take the bull by the horns in a project like this. Because of the approach we took, we had so many people involved between the advisory board, which I forgot about, Carol. It was, in retrospect, probably a brilliant idea, which we didn't really understand at the time, because we had a group of people that came in and gave us their unfettered sort of views on the world. And they came in and out throughout the book, and then we had this sort of group of core writers, but you really needed somebody, as I said earlier, to herd the cats. And Carol's got she's got an iron fist and a velvet glove. So we're grateful for Carol, because you need that perseverance and persistence. Otherwise, it's very hard to herd cats. So thank you, Carol, because I think we wouldn't have gotten there. But lessons learned, you do this again next time. I think a lot of things that you definitely wouldn't do again. But I do think that the advisory board it kind of just happened because of COVID, but it was probably one of the smarter things that we did right at the beginning.
Oh, definitely. Right, Lila?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I totally agree with what Marie said. And looking back from a perspective of a person who's been in industry and academia, as well as Carol, I think that skill set is what is very important for driving initiatives such as this to completion. So thanks again, Carol. We appreciate it.
Just a little plug for Marie. That skill set was developed by Compaq HP.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, you need all those skills and more.
We need all those skill sets.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So what is your biggest takeaway from working on this project? I'll let anyone answer that wants to.
Have a lot of patience. I think, it's not the what, it was the how in this book. The content and the context was always there. It was really getting to the finish line. I just think that the approach we took was probably, Randy, this yourself, was probably pretty different to a lot of stock standard. I have a lot of friends who've written books, and they're usually sort of single trick pony shows, if folks go about it their own way and it's their perspective. I think we embarked on an incredibly ambitious journey that we probably didn't appreciate when we started in COVID, how complex and complicated this approach was. But in the end, I think we formed an incredibly great group of folks that really came through. So, but that was one of my biggest learnings. It's like we really took on an ambitious agenda here.
I want to answer this question as a former practitioner in project management. So the biggest takeaway for me was that we used a project management framework, which included resources. That's the collaboration between business and academics. And then we use rules and processes and procedures that include things like research, data, and visual tools. And we're able to do all of those things using this framework to complete a deliverable, which was really this book. And this book merged the theoretical and the practical. So me stepping back and looking at it as a former practitioner, that is exactly what I see as the takeaway. And I'm excited to be a part of this initiative.
What I would like to see people take away from this book, I'd like them to read this book and say, oh, I'd like to be part of the next book. I want to be part of what, it needs to go into the classroom. I want to be part of making sure the talent pool that I am pulling into my business is educated with what I can support. So I would like to see a developing and deepening of a relationship between business and academia, where more and more practitioners, as they read the book, go, I want to get on board. How do I get on board? I've got some great people. That's what I want to see. I want to see people say, there's going to be a next bridging the gap of this area and this area and this area. And I really think reaching the magnitude that we're going to with this text, I'd like to see them wanting to bridge that gap.
Terrific. So just to finish, what would you most like your readers to take away and learn from the book? Marie?
I am really hopeful that as I put myself in the mindset of a student, that they really gain practical insight and better preparedness for the workplace. I think the workplace is definitely digital transformation, and COVID has just accelerated that process. And so I think for many students coming out of school, they weren't as ready for what the workplace looks like today. I do hope that this book provides a sort of a better lens into what the workplace looks like and gets them more prepared and more ready beyond the sort of core curriculums that they have today. So I'm optimistic that the students who read this book will find it a must do, and they'll look back and say, hey, I'm better today in the workplace because I had a chance to read this book.
Could you repeat
Terrific.
that question, Randy?
What would you most like readers to take away or learn from the book?
What I found was one of the authors that we've chosen for the next series, a book that we're going to do on generative IA and bridging that gap. He was one of the what I call I gave the book to and asked him to read it, and I asked him from his perspective what he saw. And so this is an invaluable lesson for all of us ladies. He can't wait for this book to be actually published so he can use one of the sections with his business, and that just really made me happy. He's like, oh, this is exactly what I'm doing in business. It's exactly what I need in business. And if I had had this in the classroom, learning exactly what a business needed when the business is actually wanting to use what's in the book, that floored me. I didn't really understand while I was editing the book that's what a business person would see. So for Marie and Lila, they weren't part of that conversation, but that is what happened. That person read it and then came back and said, how soon can you get this out? Because I need to use this section in my corporation. And I was like, well, we're working on it. And then the next thing was, well, for me to go back, and I'm sure Lila sure too, to know that what I just heard, I can go back. It's kind of like bringing a student, somebody in to guest speak to your students, and they're like, really? And then they ask a lot of questions of that guest speaker. It was like that. It was like eye-opening, and I was like thrilled to see the business recognize the value. And as an academician who heard that, I was like, I now see a tremendous value.
It's perfect. The book's already making an impact.
It's exactly right. Thank you for that word.
Lila?
Well, as a student, I want to address this particular question looking from their perspective. So from a student's perspective, you will have one book, not a textbook and supplemental books, but it's possible to actually have one book that you can use as a resource for a class that will give you the theoretical knowledge that you need, as well as the practical applications. And I think that's the biggest thing that I want students to take away from this book, that it is possible to have one resource, depending upon the discipline and depending upon the course.
And that's rare. So the book definitely is unique. Well, I wanted to thank you all for joining me today. This was a really interesting discussion. We're excited to publish the book. It's scheduled to publish by October, fingers crossed. And it's available already for pre-order on Amazon, and you can also order it on Routledge.com. And we'll share a link with the videos so people can start getting their orders in. But thank you again for joining me, and really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank
Andy.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, collaborators.